I started development work on my multi-part mold system. The idea is we'll have a bottom part for the foot and then several pieces like this that go around in a circle so that we can demold from the sides as opposed to from the top. The reason that is useful is it lets us slip cast pots like this that have undercuts in them. So here is a 3D print of a model that I made, and the neck here is smaller, so there's no way to pull it up and down. I haven't been able to slip cast these so far, so I've started working on a new mold system. And in the last video, I went ahead and printed this out. This piece here is 1/4 of the scaled up pot, and it's had the bottom sliced off, and that's what creates this piece here. This is the face that will be slip cast. It's exactly this face here. It goes like that. And then we need the rest of the pieces to go ahead and contain plaster. So there's some side wings. There's a top piece so we get nice rounded over outer mold, and then there's tops and bottoms. This is not without problems, and I've been busy redesigning it, but I figured since I had it already, I might as well go all the way through plaster and try and slip cast a piece. So to do that, I need the other 3 pieces. And that's what these are here. These are basically the same. They still have some bubbles on the outside face here, but this is the outer mold. And I still don't like how I poured in the plaster, but this should be good enough. So this will get assembled basically just like this. I need to get everything aligned, and then when it's done, we'll be able to pull pieces off from the side to get our clay out. I've noticed a few things. One, there's a little bit of a sharp edge here. We need a 90-degree corner here so that the faces can meet together, but the way this was made, there's a little bit of a spot for some flash to leak into the 3D prints. Basically this area right here, there's a potential for some plaster to leak that way. And so I have a little bit of a ridge here, so it's going to create a little bit of a seam line, I think. I deliberately didn't put mold keys in this. I'm not sure exactly what I want right now. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and line things up manually. I suspect this may be a little bit difficult, but it's worth a try. I was playing around with this a little bit off camera, and I think the easiest thing to do is going to be to assemble it upside down. Just like that, and then we can take some rubber bands. And that isn't aligned at all, but I think we can get it by hand reasonably well. There you go, basically like that. That feels pretty good. We can feel it all the way around. All I really feel at this point are those little steps. And we have our bottom piece. This is just like a horizontally split mold. And just like the horizontal split molds, I went ahead and made a belt. This registers to the outer plaster surface, which is created by the outer mold, so we know exactly the geometry of that. Put that in. Make sure the rubber band isn't in the way. And this should clamp down and align everything. All right, there is a fully assembled mold. This seems pretty sturdy. A little bit finicky, but good enough for a test again. Let me go ahead and mix up my slip, and then we'll pour some in. I'll go ahead and give this 30 minutes. That's usually what my plaster and my slip take for my molds. During that time, the plaster is going to basically be a sponge, suck the water out of the slip, deposit the clay around the outside, and the slip level is there so that we can keep the level above the rim of the pot. My camera overheated, so you missed me pouring out the slip, but basically I just dumped it out, and then I've let it sit for another half an hour or so, just like any of my other molds. Now we should be able to demold it. So there's the gallery for the slip well that we can trim across. Put that in the reclaim. It's a little bit more tricky across the segments, but not bad. Release the band. One rubber band. And then the second. And then we should just be able to pull these off from the side. One. Two. Three. And four. And then pull it up out of the foot. No problem. So I see a little bit of flash here where the slip leaked. Not too bad. Likewise for the bottom. And the pot itself, it's very soft. There's our seam line. Foot. So again, this is what we're going for a fired pot. Something similar to that. Of course, it needs to shrink a lot. Or the 3D printed version. People often ask about layer lines. I didn't sand this at all, and you can see a faint hint of them, but this seam line will be more to clean up than that is. All right, I think I'm going to leave this covered and dry out before I tackle the seams because it's pretty soft. So let's grab a wear board and flip it upside down. And we can put those back together and we should be good for next time. However, I'm going to do one more test. So I don't have these mold keys, and that makes aligning things a little bit tricky, but it does let me lap the surfaces. I'm going to try that right now. So our 3D prints are flat, but they're not perfectly flat. And if you look very closely, you might be able to see there's a little bit of texture here. And the idea is that we can take a flat surface. My bench is pretty flat. It's actually starting to bow a little bit, but close enough. And a piece of sandpaper. This is some 120, so it's pretty aggressive actually. And we can just go back and forth. Just a little bit, and it will take down any high spots. Something like that. And then I can do these side edges as well. Be careful not to change the angle. Okay, so I've done two edges, and theoretically, these should mate together better. However, I think I'm getting the angle wrong. So that may make things worse versus the original. All right, so I've done half of them. I think this will be another good test. Normally I wouldn't slip cast back to back, but I'm kind of curious how this would work. So let's assemble it again. So definitely slip cast a lot thinner since the mold was already wet. Very soft. It really wants to sit up for a little bit longer. Looking at the faces, so this one here I lapped, this one I didn't, so this is the seam between the two. This is too lapped, and I still have some flash, so I don't think the lapping helped. All right, I'm gonna give this another while, and then we can demold it the rest of the way. There we go. I ripped the side. So the walls are definitely too thin, and I don't think lapping gave us anything, which is a useful test. All right, this one's going to go into reclaim because there's no way it's going to survive firing. This one's starting to firm up a little bit more. I'll seam it later. I think this was a good test. So one, it shows how the molds all come together, and it gave me a list of things that I do want to change as well, in addition to the things I learned from last time. I want to go ahead and make these wings part of the inner piece. That way there's not a seam right here, so it won't transfer into the plaster right at this edge here, since this is basically the piece that defines the seam line. I had kept these flat to lap things, and now that I tried it, I don't want to do that for the real parts. I think it can be done, but you would probably need a jig to do it very carefully. And I think it's probably more pain than it's worth. These seam lines probably aren't terrific, but seeing other people's pieces in their raw state, they don't look any worse than that, so I think they'll clean up just fine. I think I want to give another thought about the way these stack together. Again, I'd kept this flat so that I can lap it. However, I think I'm going to explore capturing it between the 4 pieces, so this winds up being in the middle. What that will do is it'll move this seam here onto the bottom, and it should open up some other opportunities for more complex foot designs. So back to the drawing board and a lot more CAD work for me. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Thanks.